Hello everybody, welcome to episode 49 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk in the United Kingdom. Sounds funny when you say the whole word. You're not UK. And today is the 20th of September 2018 and today is my 2-year podiversary. Actually, it's not today. It was like 10 days ago, but this is the nearest podcast. So we've been podcasting for 2 years, Barbara. She can't hear me, she's in the other room. So I've got lots of things to chat to you about today. So I've got some knitting as usual, crochet, a little bit of sewing, a blast from the past and gadget and confessions. And I've got a little bit of information on my shop update, as well as one Ask Me Anything question off the Ravelry group thread. And I'm also launching my new website. So I'm coming off Etsy and I'm going to launch my new website and I'm going to launch it on Friday. So what I'll do is I'll change the link below so that you can get straight to my website, and it's basically going to be crafthousemagik.co.uk. So originally my blog was on crafthousemagik.co.uk, but I'm going to switch it to my shop with links to my blog, if that makes sense. If you follow me on Instagram, there'll be links on there so you can find it easily as well. So it's all exciting, isn't it? So I think I'm going to have to do a giveaway, but what I'm going to do, I think, because we're so close to 5,000 subscribers, is when I hit 5,000 subscribers, I'm going to have quite a big giveaway, thinking about sort of a shawl amount of yarn and a bag to go with it. So I think that would be quite nice. So please like and subscribe if you want me to hit 5,000 subscribers. So lovely. I'm rambling on a bit now. Let's get into the good stuff. But first of all, I just need to say that I'm Craft House Magic on Ravelry and Instagram and Facebook and things like that. And I've spoken to you previously about the monthly meetup that I was trying to organise in Norwich. The last venue that I was looking into really wasn't appropriate, just because they didn't really have a space that we could sort of occupy. But one of my friends, Jean, has suggested somewhere else, so I'm going to go and see that the weekend. So I'm keeping you updated. We've got the two craft alongs going on. We've got the swim along, which is to do with the Goldfish Memories shawl, which I'll show you in a little while. And we've got the Christmas craft along, which runs right till the end of November, and we're getting all our Christmas gift knitting and anything related to Christmas, really. Someone asked me if they could include things that they're making for a Christmas fair. Yes, perfect. Come and share it. Come and chat over in the Ravelry group. So that's over in the Ravelry group there. You can find it, Craft House Magic, on the groups tab on Ravelry. Last week I did a tutorial on a little mini owl, which I haven't actually got here. I've put it downstairs somewhere, but I will pop a link down below to the little owl, how to make a little owl. Next week I'm thinking of maybe doing a tutorial either on quilting or on bobbin lace. I want you to vote which one you want to see first. So I was thinking of tutorial on quilting, on how I do piecing and get it really accurate, or just beginning bobbin lace. So whatever you prefer out of those two things, whoever wins the vote, I'll do next. I also wanted to mention that I've got my local quilt show this weekend, which is the 22nd and 23rd of September in Drayton, just outside of Norwich. And I'll be there, and there'll be lots of cake. So if you live nearby, come and have a look. It's £2 entry, and the cake and tea are £1. So it's then there's going to be loads and loads of cake. So I definitely recommend coming just for the cake. But there'll be lots of lovely quilts. I've seen some of the quilts that are going to be there, and there's going to be some really impressive ones. Mine will be included, but don't look too closely at it because it's not as good as the others. But anyway, right, I will definitely stop rambling now. I've been drinking Diet Coke this morning. It's not good because it makes me hyperactive. Oh dear. Right, I've already started with the oh dears already. Let's get into the knitting. So I've got one finished objects this week to show you, and they're my Dale socks. So these are a pattern by Homespun House, and the pattern is on Ravelry, and I think it's a paid for pattern, I'm pretty sure it is. but it's not very expensive, but it's also not a very detailed pattern as well. So I've put some notes on my Ravelry page about what I changed about the stitch counts, because I know that there was only instructions for I think 46 and 54 stitches I think, and there's no way that's going to fit me in 4-ply yarn. So I think I did 68 stitches on the cuff because it's a 1x1 twisted rib, and then I actually decreased 2 stitches when I got onto the plain knit, and then once I'd done the heart section I decreased another 2 stitches I think. But I also changed my needle size because I'm quite a tight knitter. I find I used 2.5mm needles on the cuff and the bit just above the colourwork, and then I used 3mm needles all the way down the sock where the colourwork is. And then I used 2.5mm on the heels and toes as well, just because I knit so tightly and I did not want the colourwork to be too tight. So these little snowflake bits, if you end up with your floats on the inside being too tight, you won't be able to get your leg in there, so it's really important to use a larger needle. Well, I find it was anyway with my tight knitting. The other thing I had to say, I think the pattern doesn't actually give instructions for a heel, and I think that they actually tell you to go and look at the Fish Lips Kiss heel, but I just did a normal German short row heel, which you can find instructions for in my video tutorials, and I'll leave a link below to that one as well. I've used the white yarn, or creamy white, is an opal solid, and this mauvey purpley colour is West Yorkshire Spinners, and I can't remember what the colourway was, and I've actually put my yarn away so I can't show you the ball, but it's a type of a mauvey purple colour, and actually on camera that's coming out more of a brown. It's got a little bit more of a pink tinge to it. So there we go. I'm only showing you the one side because the other side I don't think is so neat, especially in the colourwork, so I'll show you the bit that's a bit dodgy. So you can see that there's a bit of a jog when you're knitting in the round, you always end up with a slight jog, and I did actually lift up the stitch below and knit it so that it joined together a bit better, but it's still not really neat. But it's not too bad, and I think with the snowflakes I didn't bother doing that because they're sort of spaced out anyway. I think that as I'm knitting more and more colourwork, my tension is getting better for between the two different yarns. I use my right hand for the main colour and my left hand for the contrast colour, and my tension between the two is getting more equal, I think, and I think that helps by using a larger needle as well. What I did use is I used the 9-inch circular, Chowgoo 9-inch circular, to do the colourwork at 3mm, just because you didn't end up with, like with Magic Loop, I ended up with a tight area on the edge with colourwork. I just found it difficult to stretch those stitches out, so using the 9-inch circular I think helped as well. So there we go, that's my first finished object. I've only got one. I think this is a very oh dear type of podcast again. I've got works in progress. So I'll start with another sock since I've just spoke to you about a sock. I've cast on some of my Jingle Bell Rock colourway, which knits up like this, and you can see my little Jingle Bell Rock progress keeper there, having like a type of rock and a bell. I find this so funny, and every time I'm knitting on this I'm singing Jingle Bell Rock, which is ridiculous because it's a bit early yet and people are going, Ellie, oh dear. So that's how it's knitting up. It's like a micro striping effect. This base that I'm using is a sparkle base. I'm not quite sure whether you'll be able to see how sparkly it is on camera. It's just the right amount of sparkle, I think. So I'm knitting just a plain sock because I wanted to show the stripes off better, and I'm working on a different heel so it looks a bit like a Christmas tree, and I'm hoping to publish that on Ravelry soon, but I'm wondering whether to do some pattern to go on the rest of the sock as well. So, but at least I've sort of designed the heel flap part. It's supposed to be like the shape of a tree. It's difficult to see like that, but you get the point. So I'm halfway down the foot, and for the rest of the sock I'm just doing a standard top down sock with 2.75mm needles on magic loop. I'm using 60 stitches for me. So I haven't actually measured my tension. I probably should. Can I find a ruler? How many stitches per inch? This isn't ideal to measure it like this because it's probably not that accurate, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 stitches per inch, I think. About 7 stitches per inch. That's not a very accurate way of measuring because you should really measure over 4 inches and divide it by 4. But there we go. That's my Jingle Bell Rock Socks. And I've got the actual little mini is sparkly as well, but I don't suppose you can really see the sparkle on camera. I don't really know why it doesn't pick up, but there we go. That's my Jingle Bell Rock Socks. And I'm going to have some more of that yarn in my shop update, which is on Friday, and well, the opening of my website, which is separate from Etsy. Ooh, exciting. And I think I'm going to do that at 12 noon British summertime, just so that I've got a bit more time to fiddle around with little details. So 12 o'clock on Friday. Hopefully this will go up today, this podcast, fingers crossed. And you can choose either to have the whole skein and mini, or the whole skein, mini and the charm, if that makes sense. My second work in progress, I've been working on my Goldfish Memories shawl, so I'll show you the beginning of it first. Oh, it's getting quite long now. So this was section 1 up here, section 2, section 3. Oh, it's difficult to show you without, I'm trying not to bang the needles on the table today. Section 3 has got these slip stitches. Section 4 here, that's got some slip stitches and some striping. Section 5 has got some garter stitch striping. Section 6 is some just coloured striping in stockinette. Section 7 is this lovely lace pattern. So this is what I've knitted since the last episode. So I've done the whole of section, did I say it was section 7? It must be section 7. It's not blocked out yet, obviously, but you can get the idea that it's a nice sort of wiggly lace pattern. And I found that this was really quite easy to memorise. Once I'd done a couple of rows, I didn't look at the pattern very much, just for the beginning and the end of the row, just to make sure I'd done the increases and decreases right, because you're knitting on the slant like this. So your increases and decreases are on the ends of the rows. So I finished the lacy section, which I am loving. There we go. This one is in my, here comes the rain again, I forgot for a minute. My earlier versions of Here Comes the Rain Again had some darker splotches in, but I've made the darker speckles more of a grey speckle rather than the dark, and it's difficult to see when it's not blocked out, but once that's blocked out I'll give you a better view. This section here is section 8, and this is just a nice garter stitch section, and this one is my Lace La Bonita colourway, and these are all in my singles base, and I've actually got a few kits to do this shawl still on my my shop, which will be transferred to the website on Friday, which is very exciting. There we go. So yeah, the Etsy shop will be open till Friday at lunchtime, and I'll switch everything over to the website so that it'll all be all exciting. I'm not making much sense. I've drank far too much Diet Coke this morning. So I have got quite a bit of the blue colourway left. So this one is Love is a Battlefield. I've got quite a bit of that one left, but I'm running quite low on the Here Comes the Rain Again and the Lace La Bonita, so I'm hoping that I'll use up quite a lot of this yarn, but I do want a little bit left to go in my Cozy Memories blanket. I don't know if I've said what the pattern is. It's the Goldfish Memories shawl by Casapinka, and I'm just over halfway, so that's going to be quite a bit longer than that, so it should be lovely and cosy to wrap around me. So we are doing a knit along at the moment. If you go over to the Ravelry group, you can see some lovely, lovely versions of the Goldfish Memories. Some people are knitting it with 3 skeins of yarn that they've bought. Some people are knitting it with scraps of yarn that they've got left over. Because you don't have to stick to, they say sort of have A, B and C colours, but you could just use 2 different colours here that are completely different than the rest and just keep switching them up, and it's just loads of fun really. So there we go. So what have I got to show you next? I have my Cozy Memories blanket. Now I've only done about 5 squares on this, but I thought I'd just quickly run through them with you. I think I'd got up to this one last time. This one is a Lay family yarn, and this, I don't know what colourway, she didn't name the colourways, but it was in her Christmas advent calendar last year, and it's one with tiny little coloured neps in, which is quite pretty. We've got a I can't speak today, Nora George Summer's End, so that's a really lovely summery colour. And then next to it I've got a Rosie's Moments, and this is a one of the kind colourway, and this is a lovely deep Christmassy green with some blue in there. It reminds me of a sort of riverside. And this one again is a Lay family yarn, and this looks like quite a Halloweeny colourway, and we're coming up to Halloween, so that's quite exciting. Right, so there we go. I'm just going to quickly flash you my crochet blanket, my Battenberg blanket, and this is a pattern by Sandra from Cherry Heart, and she's got some lovely instructions on her website. Really lovely video tutorial as well on how to join them, so I definitely recommend that. I've got a couple of ends that I need to sew in, but that's how it's coming along so far. I've actually only joined a row of the cream squares that way, but I do have a stack that I need to add on as well. I was looking at this and thinking that I need to make a little cushion for my living room, which will be a bit bigger than that, but I've decided that if I'd have to sort of use those pieces for the back, they wouldn't quite fit together properly, so I am going to do a separate piece of Battenberg squares to make a cushion cover as well. I think this is actually going to be a proper blanket now, just because it's so cosy, and who doesn't want a cute little Battenberg blanket for their living room? I love having blankets on my lap when I'm sitting watching the TV and knitting, so perfect. That is all my crochet and knitting for this time. I have spent a lot of time this week working on my quilt. So as I mentioned earlier, my local quilt group is having a quilt show at the weekend, and I said that I'd be submitting a big quilt, it's basically a king size quilt, for the show so that I'd actually have something to show. And I thought, oh, I'll do it when it's like 3 weeks until the show. But I managed it, it's okay. That's because, well, I've not ended up doing much knitting because I've been working on this blanket. And it's been sitting behind me while I've been talking away. I'm not going to be able to show this properly because it's huge. I have got some pictures of it on my bed, but you can see the colours of it here. I will put a picture up on the screen of what it looks like actually on the bed, because you can't really, there's no way I'm going to be able to hold it up in this room because it's too small. But I'll just show you. That's just, oh god, how many times it's been folded? It's folded quite a lot. But there's little half square triangles, and I used a layer cake from Moda, which I can't remember what it's called, but I think I showed you on the last podcast anyway. So I used a layer cake from Moda, and I actually put it together with some Bella Solids. This is a grey in the Bella Solids from Moda, to make quite a modern sort of quilt. And I actually used a method where I put the 2 layer cake pieces together, drew lines corner to corner, and then sewed either side of the lines and then cut them into 8, and it makes 8 half square triangles. And then you can sort of press them and then cut them to size, because I always find with layer cakes or anything that's already been pre-cut with fabric, you can never ever trust the sizes, because it's like a tiny, like a millimetre or 2 out, but that can put you out so much if you're in a big quilt. So that's how I made up the triangles, and I'd had this design in my head for like a diamond shape with sort of stripes of grey and coloured out the outside. It'll make more sense if I put the picture up here anyway. And I'd had this in my head for about 3 years, and I thought, I'm actually going to do it now. Make myself have a deadline of the quilt show and finish it up. So I've backed it. You can see how I've put a sleeve here so I can hang it up at the show, but I've backed it in this mottled bluey grey fabric, which I think goes nicely with front fabrics as well. You can't actually see the colour on that side, which is a bit silly. So it goes nicely with the fabrics on the outside. This colour actually doesn't look as if it goes that well with it, but there are other pieces of fabric that are more this colour. So I've just done some simple straight line quilting that echo the lines of the diamond, just because I thought I wanted it nice and clean, cut edges, and I've bound some of it in like a grey, just a grey binding, but then on the edges where I've actually got the coloured pieces, I've actually bound it in the coloured fabric that matches the coloured sections. So you'll definitely be able to see it better when I put it on the bed, and you can take photos of it there. I bought some special wadding to go in here. This is 100% cotton wadding, and it's pre-washed and pre-shrunk so that you know that it's not going to shrink when you wash it, when you actually wash the quilt when you've made it. So far I found it really nice. I actually got it from a place called Empress Mills, and I'll leave a link down below to the actual wadding that I picked up from Empress Mills, but I obviously haven't washed it yet. I don't like washing my fabrics before I quilt with them, just because I think that they always look nice and crisp when you first buy them, and I don't like washing them before I use them. Most of my quilts I don't end up actually using them much, they're just sort of display. So we'll see how well this gets on being washed with the pre-shrunk wadding inside, but there we go. It's being cotton wadding, it's so heavy, but I am pleased with how it looks, and hopefully people will think it looks okay when I put it up at the quilt show. But it's nice to sort of have, because we've got a little quilting community, it's nice for everyone to put something in. You know, it doesn't need to be the neatest or most wonderful pieces in the world, but some of the people in my group have the most amazing skills. It's brilliant. Anyway, I've gone on about the quilt too long. So what have I got next? I've got my blast from the past. Now, it wasn't actually that long ago since I made this, but I thought as we're coming into autumn, it's very appropriate to show you. So this is a little pumpkin I made, and I actually saw this pattern on Ava from the Charm of It's podcast, and she'd made a lovely set of these out of some beautiful yarns, and I thought I need one too, and I'm definitely going to make a few more of these so that there's some nice autumnal decorations for the living room for this autumn. So this pattern is the Spice and Clove Knit and Crochet Pumpkin pattern by Hannah Mayer, and it's a Knit Picks pattern, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry. I will leave a link below so that you can find it. And I knitted this out of a Rainbow Cloud yarn out of one of her mini sets, and it's a beautiful orange and brown and yellowy colourway. And then this one was a Hedgerow yarns in a lichen colourway that I had ages ago, and I just thought that would make a perfect little stalk. You can see, oh, there's bits of fluff on here. You can see how you you use strands of yarn to pull the edges in here to make it look like a pumpkin shape. But I think a nice big chunky one would look lovely with a nice tiny little baby one. So there we go. This week's gadget, these are amazing. I bought these pins because normally for quilting I just use these type of pins, which are quilt pins with a little button end so you can see where the ends are. They're slightly finer than normal pins because I don't like thick pin. Well, normal pins are really thick to me, so I either use those ones with a button on or the silk pins that are very, very thin, just because I find that the thicker pins, they mess your fabric up and it's not particularly nice. And I picked these double pronged pins up thinking that they'd be good for sort of dressmaking, because I get on with the normal pins fine. If you're joining blocks and you just put a pin where the actual seam line of your blocks joins, so that you can have like a checkered board effect, if you see what I mean. So if you've got 4 squares and you've joined those 2 together and those 2 together, when you're joining them as a 4, you want that seam to line up in the middle. So I just normally put a pin right where those 2 fabrics join, so that you get a nice neat cross where the fabrics join up. And I thought that these would be good for dressmaking if you've got quite a slippery fabric, because you can slip those prongs in together just to hold it a bit more securely and flat compared to just the normal pins. But I did try them for doing my big quilt with. Oh my goodness, I love these, because I had lots of the little squares all joined together, and I was joining these strips, and I wanted all the edges of the squares to join up. And because I want my seams to go all in sort of the same direction, or a controlled direction anyway, having these pins in and already placing the seams in the direction I wanted them to go in, brilliant, because I could then just run up to the pin. I actually ran over the first leg of the pin until I was at the centre where the seams cross, and then I pulled the pin out. But you have to be really careful that you don't sew into your pins. Just go really slow if you're going to sew over them. But these are made by Clover, and they come in a little box like that. I can't remember what exactly they're called, so what I'll do is I'll pop a link below in the down bar of where you can get them from. I think I got them from Amazon, these ones. But they are so useful. I'm going to get some more. I thought, oh, you don't need that, you just need to nestle the seams in, but actually to be able to angle your seams the direction you want them, because sometimes I want them to go down and sometimes I want them to go up, so that they're all nice and flat and they lay nice and neatly. Those pins are wonderful. Oh dear, I'm not endorsed by Clover at all, I just love a gadget, really. Oh dear, right, what have we got next? I've got some confection. Oh dear, there's some confection. I've gone a little bit mad. Let's have a sip of my Coke. Right. Oh, I've got something very exciting to tell you. So my friend Jo, my friend from Quilt Group, said she was going on a pattern cutting course. And I said, a pattern cutting course? I want to go on the pattern cutting course. So I said, Jo, I'm coming with you. So we're going to this pattern cutting course, which is at City College in Norwich. And pattern cutting, I didn't quite know exactly what it meant, but basically it means you can take measurements from somebody and then actually draw out blocks and pattern pieces that will fit you perfectly. So it's not like sort of tracing out patterns from your clothes or anything. I can draw it from scratch, which I find very exciting. So I've done one of these classes. There's 6 evening classes where I'm learning about how to do pattern cutting. And in the first class, she said that you need one of these, Pattern Master. And I thought, well, I've already got a French curve. Do I need a Pattern Master? She said, yes. So I bought a Pattern Master. So this has got right angles on it. And I don't think you can see very well. Whether I can use something plain. Here we are. I'll use my iPad to show you. You can just about see. There's angles on here that allow you to find different angles that you'll need to draw your pattern pieces out. And also there's pivot points. I don't know how to use those yet because we've only had one lesson, but I shall tell you if I actually find out. And this other side is obviously like a French curve. You can draw curves for your pattern pieces. So that was very exciting. So we've got the second lesson this evening, so I'm hopefully going to learn a bit more how to draw my pattern out. I've started drawing one of the blocks out, so we'll see how that works out. So that one, this was £13.99 from Amazon, and I picked one that was a not bendy one. It was a solid plastic ruler. Not quite sure whether that's better or not because they do flexible ones, but I will leave the link down below to this Pattern Master if you're after one of these. This one isn't actually, because Pattern Master's the name of a company, well, one company makes their Pattern Master, but this wasn't actually called a Pattern Master. This one's called a Liquid Draw All-in-One Professional Pattern Maker, and that's the little instruction leaflet that came with it. But I think they come out a little bit cheaper than the Pattern Masters, and the reviews on Amazon look quite good. So there we go, that's purchase number 1. Oh dear. Right. I love Cheryl's little, I'll see if I've got her card. It's Cheryl, who is Chapel View Crafts. She leaves a little card. Makes these lovely little cake progress keepers and stitch markers and little things to go in dolls' houses and little miniatures and things. And I've had my eye on these for ages. There's a little elastic band holding them all in there together, which I kept them like that because they look really cute, and plus I can not drop them on the floor when I'm showing to you. So there's little cakes. Now I'm going to take them out, they're going to fly everywhere. That are little progress keepers, if you can see. And they are the most gorgeous things. So there's an orange cake. There's a walnut, or coffee and walnut I think that one is. There's a Victoria sponge with a little flower on the top. A lemon cake. I have got some of these before, like different types of lemon cake, but they're not quite the same. But you have to have them when Cheryl's got them in a little tin as well. Some chocolate cake. That's probably the one I like tasting the most, but I like these the little oranges on the top are really cute. I think that's like a red velvet. There's like a chocolate mint cake. I'm not showing these very well. And a carrot cake with a cute little carrot on it. So I bought a little set of those, and then she had these little cupcakes, so I picked up a little cupcake as well. And they're going to be hanging from my knitting. And I liked, you could have the little tin, I'm showing you upside down, the little tin for the little cakes. I thought it's nice just to keep them all together, so that's lovely. Thank you, Cheryl. So I think Cheryl's on Etsy. She's also got a website, chapelviewcrafts.co.uk, and she does lots of different cake things, so definitely recommend Cheryl's website. Oh, well, her Etsy shop. Oh, it's so naughty. I've also ordered some yarn, because I'm going to join in the Strictly Sock Along. So it was the lovely Ali from Little Drops of Wonderful always does this wonderful Strictly Sock Along, and I'm going to join in. And I've ordered some yarn from Little French Meadow, and it's called It's a Disaster, Darling. So that's what they say on the show. I haven't actually watched it for ages, and to be honest, I probably remember the original series. What was that called? Was it Come Dancing? Yes, Come Dancing when I was a kid, which just shows how old I am. Oh dear. So that's on its way, I think. I'm hoping it'll arrive before I start, well, before the actual Strictly starts, and I'm not quite sure. It must be in a couple of days. I hope I don't miss it. Well, I'll just have to knit extra and watch it in retrospect when I've received my yarn. But anyway, I've got that. I also went to a shop called Abercarn that's opened in Shrewsbury. So my parents live in Shrewsbury, and Abercarn is a chain that I've been to the shop in Chester, but they've just opened one in Shrewsbury, so I had to go when I went visiting my parents. And I had this little froggy, and it's a tape measure. How cute is that? He's very silly, but I just thought, yes, we need a silly frog tape measure. I have to make a frog bag to go with it. And at Abercarn I found this sort of embroidered material, and it's just a very simple sort of net fabric, and I thought that this would be nice to sort of go over the top of some black fabric around like the yoke of a top or something. So that's what I picked up from there. I think that's all I bought. I might have also bought another of the afternoon tea things from Lay Family Yarn. Oh dear. Anyway, I've picked up that. Oh, and the last thing I've ordered is a little pin and I got it from Opera Jo because she's just opened her new website, so I picked up one of her lovely pins because you have to. And it's on my bag with all my other lovely friends' pins as well, and I've got some of my own too. So there we go. So this is on the back of one of my sock size bags, because there's a pocket on the inside of there. None of the backs of the pins are interfering with the knitting, and I've just got my other pins that are these button pins. They don't actually poke on the inside of the bag because it's a pin that goes through and hooks into the button at the front. So I've got my other friends there as well, so hopefully you can see your pin on there if I've swapped a pin with you or bought a pin from your shop. Anyway, I've got far too many pins now. I think what I might do is actually make something to hang on the wall to put my pins on, so that if I'm not using this bag at the time, then I can see them as I'm crafting in my craft room. So there we go. Right, that's my collection. It's not that bad, is it? It probably is. So I've just got my information on my shop update, and I'm going to do my Ask Me Anything question off the Ask Me Anything thread on the Ravelry group. So if you don't want to listen to those things, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Don't forget to tell me whether you want a quilting or a bobbin and lace tutorial for next week. Right, shop update. So new website opening Friday the 21st at 12 o'clock noon, British summertime. If you can count, well, it doesn't seem like summer now. Anyway, I've got a couple of new things that are going to go in the shop on the launch. I have designed a new little bag, which is my little robin bag, and it's a little robin with little footprints walking across. And on the back I've made him slightly Christmassy in that he's got a little bit of holly in there. If you don't want holly on yours and you order one, just message me and I won't do that, because you might not celebrate Christmas, because robins are a sort of wintry thing anyway, so if you don't celebrate Christmas, I can omit the little holly there, and it's just got Craft Ice Magic that I've free motioned. So the footprints and the stitching on the back is all free motion. I've used a plique to do the brown and the red, and I've stitched on the top to give the details, and then the legs are completely free motion sketched on my machine. So I've got a really lovely red line, and I love this red colour. And again, that they've got my normal two nice big pockets, which will allow you to put pins on the back of the bag if you want to. And there we go. So I've actually only got a few of these labels left, so I'm going to stop using them because I already do the free motion on the outside anyway. I'm not quite sure whether I am going to replace the inside label, because if they've already got a label on the outside, I think that's fine. So there we go. You can see that I've just popped a few skeins of yarn in there that I've got hung up in my craft room, but I will just show you what it looks like when it's done up. So it's a drawstring bag, but I will actually give you the option to have a zipped bag if you want one. So there we go, there's my little robin bag. I love how it looks when it's folded over, because that red fabric's lovely. I've also got another product that I'm just launching on Friday, and this is my little scissor cases. So I'd got a larger scissor case on my website, and a lovely lady, Tony, requested a smaller one to put her smaller sort of 4-inch scissors in there. So I thought, actually, this is a genius idea, so thank you, Tony. I am going to be selling these scissors along with the scissor pouch, because you know that they'll definitely fit then. So these are Millward scissors, because I think you need them so that they're reasonably sharp to be able to snip things. So these are Millward scissors in a rose gold colourway, and I love these little stalk scissors anyway. So you can get smaller stalk scissors than this, but I do like this size just because it allows you to snip fabric better actually. So they're a sort of a medium size of scissors. So you can get away with cutting fabric with them as well, not just yarn. So this scissor case has got a couple of pockets, so your scissors go in the middle, and then in the front pocket I've pinned some little bulb pins there. So you can purchase the bulb pins, the scissors and a little tapestry needle there. So it's like a little set to go with your knitting. And there's a little button at the front that closes it up. I'll just shut that and show you what it looks like. So then you can pop that in your knitting bag, and it doesn't then, the scissors don't poke on your knitting, keeps them safe. And then I like the idea of being able to carry the stitch markers and the tapestry needle with it as well. So there we go. It's got a pink lining on the inside, and this is a sort of a mermaid fabric, I reckon, with the blues and pinks with like a little square pattern. Love this fabric. It's like a kind of batik fabric, this. It's got a nice feel to it. So there we go. Those will be launching in the shop on Friday the 21st as well. And I'm going to be restocking my yarn for the Jingle Bell Rock as well, because that had sold out, especially of the Stellina base. So there we go. I won't show you all the other things that I've sort of shown before too much, but I will be restocking some of my Sweet Dreams and my Over the Rainbow yarn colours as well. So if you go and have a look there, and tell me if you have any suggestions of changes for the website, because obviously it's just launched, so I'm hoping that it'll work effectively. But if you do have any suggestions or issues that you think need resolving, just drop me a message. I'll be really grateful. Thank you so much. So we're now on to the last bit, which is the Ask Me Anything section. I've got a question in the Ravelry group. I'll just have a sip of my Coke. I shouldn't drink too much of this really, it makes me way too hyperactive. So we've got a question from Linda, and it's Linda Dawn 64. And she was talking about me mentioning that I used to be a member of the the Weavers, no. The Worsted Guild of Spinners, Weavers and Dyers on previous podcasts. And she said, if there were enough hours in the day, would spinning and or weaving be something that I would like to do or do more of? So I think I used to do quite a bit more spinning and weaving than I do in the podcast at the moment. I don't have enough time to do all the things I want to. I'm in the middle of spinning some lovely coloured fibre from Wingle Woolworks that I picked up a couple of years ago, and I just haven't had time to sit there and do it. I feel like spinning is something that I have to do where I have lots of time to sort of get on with other things, because it's such a sort of long-winded process, and I do like to spin thinner yarns as well, so I would like some more time to do it. But I think that I actually prefer the action of knitting and sewing than I do spinning. With spinning I sort of do it to see the product, if that makes sense. So that's probably why I don't do so much spinning. I do have a really gorgeous Ashford Joy spinning wheel that I need to get using more often, because it was very expensive. I have done quite a bit of weaving in the past. I did used to do quite a bit of work on the rigid heddle looms that the guild that I used to belong to had, and I did quite a lot of work on those, but I chose to actually purchase a 4-shaft loom that was like a table standing loom. But because it's a pain in the bum to actually warp up, I don't use it very often. It takes me like 5 or 6 hours to warp it up properly for a decent width, and it's just a pain. And you also need a warping board as well to actually warp weaving looms like that, so I haven't really used it much. But I think, to be honest, I did used to really enjoy using the rigid heddle loom. It's just that I'd got sort of past doing plain weaving with it, and I wanted to do patterns. But I think you can actually, if you get rigid heddle loom, you can get another heddle to make a more complex weave, so maybe I should do that. Although I've got way too many things that I like to do, so I better not buy something else that I don't use. So there are so many lovely crafts. I just need to just craft all the time and not sleep. That'd be lovely if I didn't have to sleep. Anyway, thank you so much for that question, Linda. I hope I answered that thoroughly enough for you. I will make an effort to actually show you some more spinning. I'll get the spinning that I've got on the wheel finished so that I can actually show you properly. So there we go. I think that's everything that I was going to talk about in the episode. hopefully it's not too rushed. I've got 1,000,001 things to do this week because we've got the quilt show at the weekend. I've got a couple of things that I need to help prepare for the quilt show, and I also need to label a few things that I'm actually going to display, so I need to sort those out. And I also need to sort out my website completely. It's nearly there, it just needs a few tweaks, so hopefully that'll be okay. I'm sure it'll be fine. To be honest, it's probably okay now. It's just not pretty enough. It needs just a few things tweaking on it. So thank you so much for watching me, and I'm so sorry about all the waffle I've been talking about today. It's all this too much caffeine. I don't normally drink caffeine very often, and if I have like a small glass, it makes me go crazy. Anyway, I shall stop waffling. Thank you so much for watching, and even if you don't want to come and buy something from my website, if you just go and have a look and see if you think that there are any things that I need to change about it, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. So thanks again, and I shall see you in a couple of weeks. Bye!